Savannah Guthrie is back on the Today Show, but this is not the kind of return anyone ever imagined. Behind the polished smile, behind the calm voice millions trust every morning, is a daughter living through one of the most terrifying and unresolved mysteries in recent celebrity news: the disappearance of her own mother, Nancy Guthrie. On April 6, 2026, Savannah stepped back into Studio 1A after more than 2 months away. Her opening words were simple, almost understated. "It is good to be home." But the weight behind that sentence was impossible to ignore. Because while she has returned to her job, her life is still very much on hold. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. And every moment Savannah spends on air now exists in the shadow of that reality. The story begins on January 31, 2026, in the quiet, upscale area of Catalina foothills near Tucson, Arizona. Nancy Guthrie, an 84-year-old woman known for her independence and warmth, was last seen at her home that evening. Nothing about that night initially seemed unusual. No signs of distress, no warning that anything was about to go terribly wrong. But by the morning of February 1st, everything had changed. Nancy was gone. And what investigators discovered at the scene immediately turned this into something far more serious than a simple missing persons case. There were signs of a struggle outside the home. Blood was found on the porch, later confirmed to belong to Nancy. That alone raised immediate alarms. But then came the most chilling piece of evidence: doorbell camera footage showing a masked individual near the house. The footage captured a figure attempting to tamper with the camera, as if trying to erase their presence. It didn't work, and that short clip became one of the most haunting pieces of evidence in the case. From that moment on, authorities began treating this as a suspected abduction. For Savannah Guthrie, the news was devastating. Known as one of the most composed and professional journalists on television, Savannah suddenly found herself on the other side of the story, no longer reporting the news, but living it. Within days, she stepped away from her role on Today, canceling appearances and putting her entire career on pause to focus on one thing: finding her mother. As the days turned into weeks, the case quickly gained national attention. This wasn't just any disappearance. This involved one of the most recognizable faces in American media. And with that visibility came both intense scrutiny and massive public support. Savannah and her family made emotional public appeals, asking for any information that could lead to Nancy's safe return. In one particularly powerful statement, they addressed whoever might be responsible directly, saying they were willing to talk, willing to do whatever it takes, just bring her home. Then came the reward: $1 million, a staggering amount, meant to send a clear message. This family was not giving up, and they were willing to do everything possible to bring Nancy back. But despite the reward, despite the media coverage, despite the involvement of federal investigators, the case remained frustratingly stagnant. Leads came in, but none led to a breakthrough. At one point, investigators focused on physical evidence found near the scene, including gloves that were believed to potentially belong to the suspect. DNA testing was conducted, raising hopes that this could finally identify someone involved. But it didn't. The results came back inconclusive, leading investigators down yet another dead end. There were also early theories about how the suspect might have entered and exited the property, including the possibility of escape through rugged terrain behind the house. But those theories were later questioned, with experts suggesting that such a route would have been extremely difficult, if not unlikely. Every lead seemed to raise hope, only to crush it again. And then, as if the situation wasn't already complicated enough, the family began receiving messages: ransom demands. Some claimed Nancy was alive. Others demanded large sums of money. But in today's world, where technology can easily manipulate voices, images, and even videos, nothing could be taken at face value. Savannah herself spoke about this uncertainty, revealing that the family struggled to determine what was real and what wasn't. They pleaded for proof of life, something undeniable, something that could confirm Nancy was still alive. But that proof never came. As weeks passed, the emotional toll became more visible. Savannah, who had always been known for her strength and composure, began to open up about the pain and uncertainty she was living with. In a deeply emotional message shared during Easter, she spoke about holding on to faith even when answers seemed impossible. "I still believe," she said. Those 3 words carried a mixture of hope, desperation, and resilience, the kind of emotional balance that only someone in her position could truly understand. Back on the Today Show, her return was met with overwhelming support. Her co-hosts welcomed her not just as a colleague, but as someone who had been through something unimaginable. Subtle gestures like wearing yellow, a color often associated with hope, signaled that this wasn't just another day on set. This was something bigger. Fans gathered outside, holding signs and offering words of encouragement. Social media was flooded with messages of support, prayers, and calls for justice. For many viewers, Savannah's story had become deeply personal, a reminder of how quickly life can change. But even as she returned to the anchor desk, it was clear that nothing about her situation had truly improved. Nancy was still missing. There had been no arrests, no confirmed suspects, no answers, and perhaps most painfully, no closure. Savannah has admitted that returning to work doesn't mean things are back to normal. In fact, she has suggested that this return may not even be permanent. The uncertainty of her mother's situation continues to affect every aspect of her life. There are moments, she has shared, where she wonders if her public profile played a role in what happened. It's a terrifying thought, the idea that being in the spotlight could have made her family a target. But it's a question that, like so many others in this case, remains unanswered. What makes this story even more haunting is the lack of a clear narrative. There's no confirmed motive, no identified suspect, no timeline that fully explains what happened at night. Just fragments of evidence, scattered clues, and a growing sense of mystery. And that's what keeps this story alive, not just as a news headline, but as an ongoing investigation that refuses to fade away. Because unlike many celebrity stories that come and go, this one is still unfolding. Every day that passes without answers adds another layer of tension, another layer of heartbreak. For Savannah, every broadcast now exists in 2 worlds, one where she delivers the news, maintaining the professionalism she's known for, and another where she is the news, a daughter waiting, hoping, and searching for answers. It's a dual reality that few people could handle, and yet she continues, not because the situation has improved, but because stopping entirely would mean surrendering to the unknown. Her return is not a sign that things are okay. It's a sign that she's choosing to keep going despite everything. And that's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about a disappearance. It's about resilience. It's about the strength it takes to face the world when your own life is falling apart. And it's about the unanswered questions that still hang in the air. What really happened on January 31st? Who was the masked figure seen on camera? Where is Nancy Guthrie? And will this case ever be solved? As of now, those questions remain unanswered. But one thing is certain, this story is far from over. And as Savannah Guthrie continues to sit behind that anchor desk, millions of viewers are watching not just for the news, but for any sign, any update, any breakthrough that could finally bring this mystery to an end. Until then, the search continues, the hope remains, and the world keeps watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.